When it was first announced, Borderlands looked quite promising. Adapted from the popular, comical sci-fi shooter video game series, the story certainly had enough to play with, and originally Lee Wannell was in talks to direct from a screenplay by Craig Mazin. The names attached were good. However, Wannell passed on the project and it fell into the lap of Eli Roth. And after a shooting schedule that ended 3 years ago, things went a little quiet until last year when Tim Miller stepped on board to conduct some reshoots and re-edits, with Roth apparently busy making Thanksgiving being the official reason for the switch, before Mazin himself asked for his name to be scrubbed from the film, replacing it with Joe Crombie. The signs weren't good. The first trailer landed, and it looked okay, to be fair, despite some casting choices that still didn't feel right for the characters from the game, Kevin Hart as Roland in particular. Preparing to set aside my love for the game to hopefully enjoy a loose adaptation, I settled into my seat for what should have been a fun action comedy, but sadly, that wasn't what I was served. Those unfamiliar with the games needn't worry about not understanding the lore, as a voiceover by Cate Blanchett, who plays Lilith, a bounty hunter who has vowed never to return to the planet of Pandora for, well, reasons, fills out the backstory about the planet and the mythical vault of ancient technology that apparently resides there. Roland, a mercenary soldier, breaks out a teenage girl named Tina, played by Ariana Greenblatt, from an orbital facility run by the Atlas Corporation, and along with a psycho soldier named Krieg, takes her to the planet to seek the keys to unlock the vault. Coincidence and circumstance lead the players to all join forces, with robot Claptrap in tow to throw out lines of humour at inopportune moments, whilst the Atlas forces hunt them down. They seek help from researcher Tanis, played by Jamie Lee Curtis, as they strive to unlock the lost secrets of the planet, whilst all around them is chaos. If you've seen the trailer, you've pretty much seen the only parts of the film that are fun and kind of work, because the end product is a mess from start to finish. It's an absolute Frankenstein monster of a film, and you can see the messy visions of different people battling with each other on screen, with a story that tries hard to be its own thing, separate from the games, but relies on leaning into the game far too much, at the same time with locations and character cameos or pointless tech additions. See, for example, the hollow disguises scenes, where pretty much everybody recognised the characters through them. Whatever film Roth had completed 3 years ago is clearly not what has been delivered, and Miller's touch is felt throughout, trying its best to force some semblance of fun out of the mess on offer. The cast all seem to be working against each other, with Blanchett and Curtis coming over as though they don't actually want to be there at all and were simply taking a payday. This makes it a struggle to connect with the film, particularly as Blanchett is front and centre as the primary character. Her flat and bored approach and a mysterious backstory that isn't that mysterious really, means that for the majority of the time, even when there's frenzied action taking place, everything just feels a little too stagey. There's no thrill, no fun, and for pretty much all the film, I was just sat watching the events unfold with a bored expression on my face. This is usually the point of a negative review where I start to highlight some good points, but sadly, the more I think on it, the less I can find to offer up. Maybe Greenblatt as Tina, she wasn't bad, but then again, she just seems forcibly crazy and never feels as unbalanced as the film wants you to think she is. Jack Black as Claptrap, amusing at times, but annoying for the majority of the time. Even the visual style, which initially looked impressive, then has sequences of action that look like they were composed in the 80s. One particular aerial chase sequence is genuinely terrible. Don't even get me started on Edgar Ramirez as Atlas, possibly the most uninteresting and unthreatening villain ever seen on film. Clearly sanitized down for a lower rating to hopefully grab a younger audience, Borderlands isn't close enough to the games for the fans of the property, but also veers too close to the games with nods and winks for the non-gamers to enjoy. After watching this, much like Lilith, I'd be happy to never venture to Pandora again. Only M. Night Shyamalan could get away with making a thriller as a means to get his daughter a starring role and write a soundtrack album of pop songs. Trap, the latest from the writer-director, is pretty much typical M. Night from start to finish. The setup sees a firefighter in Philadelphia named Cooper, played by Josh Hartnett, taking his daughter Riley to a concert performed by Lady Raven, played by Salika Night Shyamalan. There he spies a rather large police presence and soon discovers that the concert is being used as a sting operation to capture a serial killer known as the Butcher. The thing is, Cooper is the Butcher, and then starts to formulate a way to escape the trap that has been set while still trying to make the night a special one for his daughter. Where this film works is in that central performance from Hartnett, who balances caring father and family man really well with the cold and calculating killer side to him throughout the first two acts. As he assesses the arena and plans his escape, his always calm manner is tested to the limits as all potential avenues are cut off one by one. And with the clock ticking as the concert draws on, time is against him in escaping. Hartnett balances this all perfectly, going from confident and determined at the start to an underlying look of desperation via the gradual introduction of certain facial tics over the runtime of the film. He makes for a captivating presence, and bizarrely, despite him being the bad guy here, you start to actually root for him to escape. However, some elements of coincidence do start to introduce themselves in order to force the idea along, with everything and everyone just seeming to be exactly in the right place at the right time for Cooper to gain an advantage. And it does make the suspension of disbelief a tad difficult at times as the events play out. In addition, much like other M. Night works, the last act starts to crumble somewhat, becoming more and more preposterous, and never quite knowing exactly when the story should end. There are some nice ideas in the final act, which I won't mention due to it being spoilers, but sadly they don't serve enough to lift it up much. Over-explaining and overplaying have become the norm with M. Night films, and here is no different. That said, I did have a decent enough time with Trap, and once again, I find myself more enamoured with M. Night's filmmaking style and the use of his cast rather than the actual story itself. It's never really going to be a film that I'll go back to, but it just about passed time well enough thanks primarily to that strong central performance showcasing what Hartnett can deliver.